What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Infamous Ghost Money, and I'm gonna need y'all to hide your grandma, hide your grandpa, and hide your grandparents, cause these fraudsters is robbing everyone out here. According to the IC3 2021 Elder Fraud Report, reported fraud losses from victims over the age of 60 has skyrocketed over the last couple of years, from less than $400 million in 2017 to over $1.6 billion in 2021. And check this out. Over 90,000 individuals over the age of 60 have reported being victims of various fraud schemes all over the United States last year, and this ridiculously high number may only be the tip of the iceberg because many of these elderly fraud situations go unreported or undiscovered. Fraudsters are stealing from these elderly individuals who worked hard their entire lives, since many times these folks are vulnerable, lonely, dependent, and lacking technological literacy, making them easy targets to take advantage of. And yo, these fraudsters comes in all shapes and sizes. So in this video, we're gonna look into the case of Davey, a bank manager who stole approximately $1 million from elderly bank customers in a 3-year span. We're gonna look into the methods he used, how he got caught slipping, and some simple things you could do to defend against it. So I'm gonna need y'all to pay attention to this one, y'all, to make sure the elderly loved ones in your lives don't get robbed in the same fashion. So as always, remember to hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel to add some informative, useful, practical, and entertaining content to your YouTube timeline and stay one step ahead of these fraudsters. Alright, let's get right into the information. Davey was a former Wells Fargo bank manager from Yakima, Washington, who managed a battleground Wells Fargo bank location, who was recently arrested and allegedly charged with bank fraud and aggravated identity theft. According to the complaint filed against Davey on June 30th, 2022, he would allegedly take advantage of his position and authority as a bank manager to steal money from the accounts of several elderly customers who visited his bank location. The paperwork calls out multiple situations in which Davey would target elderly individuals who did not speak English or suffered from dementia or Alzheimer's and process fraudulent withdrawals against their accounts without their knowledge or permission. One of the victims that Davey allegedly stole from is identified as KC, who was born in Japan in 1934 and struggled with managing her finances because she did not know how to use a computer, and based on the case paperwork, her daughter, identified as TL, stated that she may also be suffering from dementia. In 2016, this elderly victim would reportedly travel to various banks several times throughout the year, opening and closing accounts due to being paranoid that her daughter TL may be stealing money from her. As a result of this paranoia, on August 2nd, 2016, TL and her mother would visit the battleground Wells Fargo branch location so she could be added as a co-signer to her mother's accounts and assist in getting her finances in order. Now, Casey was a regular customer of Dirty Davey, and whenever she visited the branch, she would always wait for him to assist her. On this day, Davey would lead TL on to believe that he really added her on as a co-signer onto the accounts, when in reality, according to the complaint, Davey would never truly process the transaction, but instead, 2 days later, he would close out many of Casey's accounts that had a total balance of over $500,000, using a false signature, and reopen and reorganize the placement of Casey's cash without her or her daughter's knowledge or authorization. Over the next 3 years, Davey would treat this poor lady's account like a personal ATM by logging into the bank's teletransaction system, which allowed him to process these fraudulent transactions against Casey's accounts on his own. Davey was able to successfully do this by circumventing the identification requirements set up by the bank, by apparently selecting known, which allowed him to complete these fraud transactions without requiring the customer to be in front of him. By doing this method and variations of it, he would easily wipe this lady's account clean from between 2016 and 2019. Sheesh. Another one of Davey's victims is identified as KS, who according to the case paperwork was born in Korea in 1944 and had difficulty understanding English. As a result of this, she never reviewed her bank statements because she couldn't understand them, and she didn't use checks because she didn't know how to even issue them. According to the paperwork, KS would visit the battleground Wells Fargo branch location in 2018 so she could close out one of her CDs and have it combined with a larger account that she also held with the bank. KS was a regular customer of the battleground location, and she would usually be assisted by a female employee, but when she visited the branch on this specific day, the employee would be on vacation, so you know your boy Davey was lurking around looking for grannies to steal from, so he jumped on the opportunity to help KS with her transaction. Davey would get KS to sign a completed withdrawal slip to close out her CD that had an approximate balance of $28,000, and he would leave KS with the impression that he deposited the funds into her larger account like she requested. As it would later be discovered, Davey would give this withdrawal slip to one of his employees and use it to create a cashier's check in the amount of $28,000 payable to Wells Fargo Bank without the knowledge of KS, and also without the employee who did the transaction asking or knowing the reason behind having the check created. From this point, Davey would get real crafty in getting the cash off this cashier's check by completing a series of transactions in what appeared to be an attempt to hide the true sources of the funds. He would accomplish this by cashing these checks under his own employee ID, or he would ask one of his unwitting employees to do it for him, taking a portion of the check in cash and creating a cashier's check with the remaining. According to the case paperwork, he would do this a total of 4 times until he got the entire amount off the check from between December 21st, 2018 to January 11, 2019 in the following order. December 21st, 2018, he would cash the $28,000 check, take $8,000 in cash, and create a new cashier's check with the remaining $20,000 payable to a random business, and also change the remitter of the check to a completely different customer. Then on December 26, 2018, he would cash the $20,000 check using a false endorsement, taking another $8,000 in cash, and create another check with the remaining 12 G's to the same random business. Then on January 2nd, 2019, he would cash the $12,000 check with one of his employees, taking another $8,000 in cash, and create another check with the remaining $4,000. And finally, on January 11, 2019, he would cash out the final $4,000 check using a forged endorsement signature of another customer, and just like that, he would swipe this lady's $28,000 without her having a clue. Dirty, dirty, dirty Davey. According to the complaint, it would be uncovered that Davey stole over $1 million from at least 8 victims in the time that he ran his scheme. But he would eventually get caught slipping in 2019 when Wells Fargo would initiate an internal investigation on Davey based on a report that he was accessing elderly customers' accounts without an apparent business reason. Now, like I've mentioned in many other videos, I have no idea why anybody who works at a bank would try and steal money and think that they could get away with it. Bank security literally has cameras everywhere, and their systems monitor every single thing employees do by the millisecond. Davey must have been a certain type of genius employee to think that he can outsmart all this technology and pull off any sort of internal fraud scheme for long without setting off any alarms. But according to the case paperwork, your boy was definitely raising some red flags. First off, from the investigation, they uncovered Wells Fargo branch managers should not be on the teller system without having the proper approval, which of course your boy Dirty Davey never obtained. And multiple records were pulled showing Davey processing teller transactions that he had no business doing. Next, he was caught on surveillance on multiple occasions processing transactions against victim accounts without having no customers in front of him. Like, for real, homie, what you thought you was gonna tell bank security? You was cashing a check for a ghost? Anyway though, internal bank investigators would also review his electronic user history and locate time-stamped events in which he accessed and browsed elderly customers' accounts with no valid purposes. And his staff would report that he would regularly bring them transactions to process on behalf of customers that he would falsely state were seated in his office. And of course, his staff didn't ask any questions and complete the transactions and hand over that bread. I mean, why would they? He's the boss. He wouldn't be doing anything illegal. Finally, the elderly customers who Davey stole this money from would be interviewed and confirmed they had no idea these transactions were happening. And the random businesses that he made the checks payable to would also be interviewed and confirmed they had no idea their identities and businesses were being used to commit fraud. For these reasons and some, Davey would be terminated and eventually interviewed by the feds on multiple occasions, where he would create false reasons as to why he processed the transactions in the manner that he did. Then on April 8th, 2022, the United States District Attorney's Office would send Davey a target letter indicating that he was actively being targeted for criminal prosecution. which would cause Davey to reach out to his daughter the same day, informing her he had plans to flee the country. Davey would once again reach out to his daughter on April 23rd and 24th, giving her a final opportunity to go on the race with him. But unfortunately for Davey, his ex-wife would catch wind of this and inform the feds of his intentions, which would confirm that he indeed had a guilty conscience, which solidified the case even further. Sheesh. From this point, he would be arrested on July 8th, 2022, and now this case is actively being investigated and worked on by law enforcement. So we gotta wait and see what the outcome is gonna be for Dirty Davey, because remember, he is innocent until proven guilty. Elderly individuals can become overly dependent on these bank employees because they feel they are trustworthy since they are banking professionals. But as you can see with Brian Davey, this is not always the case. So it is important that you make a point to regularly review bank statements with the elders in your life to make sure no funny business is going on. Also, many elderly folks do not use online banking to monitor their accounts because, funny enough, they don't trust it, or simply because they don't understand how to use it. So if you have the patience, take a moment to teach your elderly loved ones how to use online banking, or at least set it up on their behalf, so that way you can set up alerts and monitor their accounts for them. Lastly, if the elderly loved ones in your life is unfortunately suffering with memory issues, you should consider looking into your state's process to become a guardian over their finances or set up a power of attorney, which would give you the authority to handle different financial matters on their behalf. But with that being said, that's the case from Brian Davey, the alleged bank manager, elder fraudster. I hope you found some value in the video. If you did, make sure you leave a comment with your thoughts, hit that like button, and also subscribe to the channel to catch more of my content on financial fraud and stay one step ahead of these fraudsters. Alright, peace.